Hey guys, how y'all doing today? My name is Franchise Fanatic, and welcome back to the channel. And today, if you guys, is maybe my first retrospective video that I've done. Retrospective, I just did a lot of voice acting, so if I sound like deaf, I've been doing Master Wu voices for about 45 hours straight. Anyway, we are talking about the Hobbit trilogy: Hobbit, Unexpected Journey, The Desolation of Smaug, and The Battle of the Five Armies. Now, look. I just want to say this. I also mentioned this when I did my Superman review, but I love the Hobbit trilogy, right? I always have since I saw them in, I think, 2012 or whenever the Hobbit 1 came out in theaters, and I also love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm going to have my own separate retrospective video on that once I finish the last one. I just got to watch Return of the King, which is like 18 hours long, the extended version. But yeah, so I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on this franchise and this, trilogy, because I think it's freaking awesome. Like, straight up, I think it's incredible. I do think that I think I might get killed for saying this. I really don't care. But I do prefer the Hobbit trilogy over Lord of the Rings. I just think it's a more compact story. I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but I love both. I'm not that type of person to be like, oh, you have to love one or the other. Like, no, like, I do love both, but, the Hobbit trilogy is something special, and I know some people are mad because, there are, Tolkien purists, which that's not a bad thing if you are. I'm just saying, there are people that read the book, and they know the lore, specifically the book lore, right, like Tolkien lore, like the back of their hand, and when Peter Jackson, the director of these two trilogies, doesn't, adhere to it, so to speak, people freak the fudge out, and they're like, oh, it's horrible, and I get it. Look, The Lord of the Rings isn't necessarily 100% completely accurate to that book, to the, all three books, right? They really don't have Tom Bombadil and certain things. I have not read the Lord of the Rings trilogy of books. I might one day. I did read The Hobbit, though. I read The Hobbit for high school, which was fun, and it's okay. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's the best book ever. It's fine. I read it. It's good. But the trilogy is great. And obviously, they add things like Legolas isn't even in the trilogy. I don't even think he's mentioned. I think they mentioned Thranduil, but Legolas really isn't in it a whole lot. Bolg he might be mentioned, but I think he might be an original character. Tauriel is a completely original character specifically made for the film franchise. Not even taken from the books. There's a lot of things in this trilogy that are added, right? I mean, I don't even think the Hobbit book mentions the Necromancer or Sauron coming back or, all this crazy stuff. It really is about the dwarves retaking Erebor from Smaug, right? It's a fine book, but I think that this trilogy is just, it's incredible. And I know that Peter Jackson didn't really have a whole lot of prep time. He didn't have a whole lot of time to, kind of make this trilogy as, quote-unquote, strong as The Lord of the Rings, but at the same time, I think it came out freaking great, at least for me. An Unexpected Journey is an amazing film, really kind of got me, set and started in the world of Middle-earth. Obviously, I got into this franchise from Lego Lord of the Rings in 2012, the game. And they made the Hobbit game in, I think, 2014, so, obviously, I played the Lord of the Rings, and then I watched that, and then I watched the Hobbit. And, just getting absorbed in this Middle-earth world is just freaking incredible, and I'm still absorbed in it, right? I just saw the Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim, which is canon to the sixth film, so it is like the seventh theatrical film. Not the best one, but it's still a really good film. I gotta get that one on Blu-ray. But it is cool to, just be involved in this world, right? And obviously you're seeing Lego the Hobbit gameplay, so, they made games and all that, and they made Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, bunch of games. But the Hobbit trilogy specifically is one of my favorite aspects of this franchise. And Unexpected Journey just really kind of sets off strong. We've got Martin Freeman, who is one of the best. He's probably like top 2, top 3, maybe even the best actor in this trilogy. He's really freaking good as Bilbo. He does a really good job showcasing, emotions and all that, and he's got these cool, funny facial expressions he does, and, just the writing is obviously top tier, nothing woke, nothing stupid. Obviously, like I said, it does change itself a bit from the book, but, we're not really talking about that. We're talking about the movies. And the movies themselves are, really, really strong in terms of what they wanted to adapt. Obviously, you've got the dwarves, and all the dwarves are cast really well. It can be a little hard at times to, we don't see a whole lot of Owen or Glowin or whoever is compared to Thor and Balin, Dwalin, that kind of thing. All those things, and it's really interesting to me that they still kind of make each character feel like a character, right? Like, I know we don't have as much screen time with whoever, right? Owen, for example, or Bofur, but it still is really cool that they are there and they still have things to do and all that. And obviously, I did watch the extended cut for all all 6 of these, it's going to be the extended version. And, obviously, these films aren't as long as Lord of the Rings, even the extended cut, but they still do add a lot of scenes, whether that is, funny scenes in, the Battle of the Five Armies, for example, or, stuff like that. And it's really cool to me that they're able to do that and kind of, make the extended version. But overall, again, going back to Unexpected Journey, it sets the stage for, why the dwarves want to retake Erebor, why Gandalf wants to retake Erebor, why Bilbo ends up joining. We see Radagast. I mean, the action is just incredible. The music is incredible. The CGI, for the most part, is very good. I know people had a lot of issue with the CGI in this trilogy. Now, it isn't really bad. It's just, the Lord of the Rings had a lot of practical elements to it. And, they made the Uruk-hai, or they made the orcs, or they made the whatever, for real. And that's good, and that's cool, but, I think that making orcs or whoever, Azog, or, whatever, CGI in the Hobbit trilogy, it ain't bad to me, because it still looks good, right? Yeah, you can tell. It's like, in the prequel trilogy, where all the clones are 100% CGI. They're not bad, but you can tell they're CGI. And then when you watch, say Obi-Wan Kenobi, for example, and you see a practical clone trooper, you're like, oh my god! You're Ahsoka, you're like, wow, look how effing better that looks, So I get it. Practical will almost always look better than CGI. Even if the CGI is photoreal and great, you can still kind of tell. Our eyes are kind of, and our brains are kind of trained on that, right? Even if it's amazing, we can still kind of know. And that's not to discredit anyone in the CGI, the VFX guys, Weta or whoever. I think they really knocked it out of the park with this trilogy. Azal looks great. Smaug looks freaking awesome. Just the 9 in, of course, Battle of the Five Armies looks really great. So the CGI is really great across the trilogy. Obviously, we get Bard in Desolation of Smaug, and we get Tauriel, which is cool. I think she's a really well-written, good character. I know some people don't like the Tauriel-Keely love interest thing. Maybe it isn't as well done as, say, Aragorn and Arwen, but I never really cared for Arwen in the first place. I thought Tauriel was a much stronger character. But I really do think that they did a fine job with it. I think it's cool that this dwarf, Keely, he's... at his heart, he knows. He's, part of a bunch of dirty, dumb dwarves, right? They're good in a battle, but, they're kind of... It's like they're, I don't know, the Ghostbusters, and then Tauriel is, the Queen of England or some shit. You know what I mean? It's a complete opposite. It's one's a dirty guy, and one's, a beautiful queen. And it's interesting. It's this Romeo and Juliet kind of aspect where you're oh, he really kind of... loves her, and she loves him, and you kind of, get to see that. And obviously, spoiler alert for, 9, 10, 11-year-old movie or whatever, he dies. He gets pooped up by Azog, I think. Yeah, Azog. And it still hurts. You genuinely do fall in love with each and every dwarf. And when Keely, Philly, and Thorin die, you're like, oh, this sucks. Right? It does. I almost tear up every time. Bilbo was a great actor, and when he's mourning Thorin, I just want to die and scream and throw my chair through the television. I haven't done that yet, but, night's still young. But I'm very excited to kind of, revisit. I was excited to revisit this trilogy, because I've always had fond memories of it. I've always loved it, and I think it straight up holds up. If you kind of, take away the, oh, it's not like the books, or, oh, it's not as good as Lord of the Rings, I don't think, people shouldn't, uplift Lord of the Rings by discrediting or putting negativity on The Hobbit, right? It's it's like Superman, right? You're allowed to love Man of Steel and Superman 2025. You don't have to bring one down to uplift the other, right? Same with Andor. Oh my God, Andor's the best Star Wars show. Not to me, but it's an objectively well-made show. Like everything else Star Wars, I would say. And, you shouldn't have to discredit Ahsoka, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, or The Mandalorian, or a Skeleton Crew, or whatever, right? Or Acolyte, to uplift Andor. That's not how this works, right? Just review it on its own merit. And I know some people don't have the critical thinking and mental fortitude to do that, and that's where you get hate online and all that dumb crap. But, I do love Lord of the Rings, and I do love The Hobbit, and I think we have to recognize their strengths and their weaknesses and all that. I really don't have that many negatives, of this trilogy. Straight up, I think, maybe one of the 2 orcs or one of the 2 wargs or whatever don't look 100,000% perfect. I know people hate Alfred, and they think he's like a discount Grima Wormtongue, which, I don't know. I like Bard. I love Lake Town. I love seeing the master and all that, and the extended cut and all that. Yeah, did we really need a scene of Alfred feeding testicles to the fucking guy? No, right? We didn't. That doesn't add to the lore, but it's still content and it's still funny. It's a funny joke, I guess. It made my dad kind of go, ugh! So it's like, oh, that was worth it. But I think that this trilogy is really great. I mean, it not only for me seeing it in the theaters and all that, but just rewatch them. If they're horrible. It's not Lord of the Rings. Like, just straight up, like, sit down, watch them. Watch one a day. I do recommend the extended cut for all 6. Yeah, they're long-ass movies, but they really do add to the lore, and it's just, each extended cut really feels like a more comprehensive and complete version, and it's really funny, like Desolation of Smaug. The theatrical film opens with, Thorin and Gandalf and Bree, and they're talking, and Thorin's like, my grandfather still lives, Dane or whatever, I forget his name. And Gandalf's like, well, we have to go destroy the Smaug, the dragon, and, more fallen. And then, you see it, and like, the actual movie comes out, and I guess, I don't know, he's effing dead? Like, that plot point never gets revisited in the next one either. Like, it's just, okay, I guess Thorin's dad died, or whatever, he poofed off to Valinor or something. But in the extended cut, we see, Gandalf in Dol Guldur when he gets attacked by Bolg and all that, and he gets kind of jacked up. He meets Azog and all that, and he, has that wizard battle, and he recognizes that Sauron returned, or at least is gathering strength. We see Thorin's dad just, like, straight up have, like, a crazy horror, like, fight scene with Gandalf. And, like, it's crazy. Like, if you watch the theatrical and then you watch the extended and do, like, a side-by-side comparison, it's effing crazy. It's nuts. It's totally wacky. Because you see, like, it's like they reshot scenes just for the extended cut. And the extended version really adds onto that, and it makes it a better movie, right? It's not just, we get an extra joke or two, or, we get more lore or whatever. Like, this is a more objectively better version of this film. And I forgot about it. And I'm sitting there at like 11:30 at night because these movies are 10,000 years long, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, like, I genuinely forgot that. I'm like, Thorin's dad is in Dol Guldur, and he's going nuts. You know what I mean? He's got that crackhead energy. He's just attacking Gandalf. It's nuts. And it really did add to the movie. Battle of the Five Armies, also, again, the movie is the only Peter Jackson movie so far, at least, to be rated R, which I kind of got a little bit weirded out when I was watching Desolation of Smaug, because Tauriel and Legolas, they're beheading orcs like nothing. And I'm like, why is there no blood? Like, this is weird, right? Like, something's off. Like, they're beheading orcs. There should be, like, at least a little bit of blood spurt. I mean, Christ. And I figured out, okay, yeah, on the surface, it's PG-13. There's certain things, having a character, I don't care if it's a bug or whatever, anything that gets beheaded and the head flies around the screen before thudding to the ground, that's effed up, right? Kids shouldn't see that. So I get it, right? You don't want to make it R-rated and alienate, your audience, and then you don't make any money. But I wanted a lore reason. I wanted a canonical reason why there's no blood in this trilogy. I mean, there is, but, when they get beheaded to a certain degree. And I thought about it, and I'm like, Tolkien, I know for a fact, Tolkien did not write The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings specifically like adult, gritty Game of Thrones, Witcher shit. You know what I mean? We're like, he's writing pages and pages about sex and violence and gore. Like, they are violent and there is blood, but it's never like a point of, we gotta really, really show that, right? So I think that's a good way of Peter Jackson showcasing the violence without turning it into Game of Thrones gore. You know what I mean? And also, people forget that in the beginning of this trilogy, Old Man Bilbo is literally writing the story. So the events that we see throughout this trilogy it's from Bilbo's perspective. So Bilbo himself is not a violent, gore-loving guy, right? He's not, like, reveling in drinking blood, and, he's not a weirdo, like Moog from Elden Ring or something, or like a Deadite from Evil Dead. So it also makes sense from that perspective to see, like, the reason why there isn't, like, super... And there is blood on swords, and there is blood in this trilogy. It's not a completely squeaky clean thing, but... in Lord of the Rings, for example, there's a little bit more blood, when an orc gets beheaded or whatever. And that's just because, they're different, right? One is considerably more violent than the other one. I know Hobbit was initially written as like a children's book, which I don't know how the hell that's the case, unless children in the 19 whatever were like, beer drinking monsters, because it's a pretty violent book. But, I think, I do like the fact that, I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, let me rub my last few remaining brain cells together. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that does make sense of why. So I think those two reasons are really, really cool, and I like that. Now, obviously, when you get to Battle of the Five Armies, it's rated R, so it goes out the effing window, I guess, because there's like a shit ton of blood in that one, but, whatever. I like that, the extended scenes show the weird, like, I don't know, like, wooden cart with, like, the spikes that Balin's driving, which is coincidentally enough in the trailer for the film, not in the actual theatrical version, but it's in the extended cut. And I like that, it's just churning up wargs, churning up trolls. There is a considerable amount of more blood, and it's more black blood, it's not like Evil Dead gore, but, it is something kind of cool where I guess, it does, that, if anything, does make sense because, it is the Battle of the Five Armies. It's one of the most gory and, like, it's kind of like a world war in Middle-earth, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the Civil War in a way, right? Like, it's a bloody battle. There's like a lot of fighting. And I like the fact that is rated R, the extended cut, at least, because it showcases the gravity of the situation. And I think that's actually really cool and well handled. Of course, the ending is both sad and uplifting. I almost choke up every time, like I said, Bilbo is crying when Thorin dies and when Bilbo's back in the Shire and he's just reflecting on his journey. I mean, it's a really good moral of, leaving the comfort of your home and going on an adventure, even though Bilbo is technically a murderer now. Whatever, we don't talk about that. But it is really cool that, yeah, he did go on an adventure. He almost died like 6,500 times. But he went on an adventure, and he did some cool stuff. And I think that at the heart of it is a really, kind of wholesome message, I guess, and when you take out all the crazy killing. But it is a fun time. Like, it's genuinely one of the most rewatchable trilogies, in my opinion. It's almost flawlessly executed. I really don't have that many issues with the trilogy. I love the stuff with Smaug. I love that Thorin is, kind of like his character arc is, especially, toward the third film, where he's like, oh, in the second film, he's like, oh, yeah, he tells Lake Town, I'm going to help you guys. It's going to be great. And then he kind of, gets the dragon sickness, so to speak, which I found out, I Googled it, it's not an actual, like, sickness. It's more like a metaphorical sickness where you're like consumed by all the greed. And I love the fact that, Smaug in one of the movies, like, not one cent of it or whatever, or not one piece of it. And Thorin says the exact same line. And it showcases to the audience as well as Bilbo that, yeah, Thorin is becoming what his grandfather was and what he swore he wouldn't become. It's really great writing. And the fact that he kind of, bounces out of that, so to speak, and joins the other dwarves and fights, it's incredible. I mean, the fight scenes are great. I know some people get kind of bent out of shape about Legolas because he's too powerful, or he's defying gravity or whatever. But, like, yeah, he's an elf. Like, he's basically, Middle-earth Jesus at this point, right? But I do like the fact that he does run out of arrows. It's a good joke, and it kind of is like it's like a crowd-pleasing moment, I guess. Like, that to me is like Captain America lifting Mjolnir. I was like, hey! I was like, finally, he ran out of his freaking arrows, So that's good. I love the rivalry between him and Bolg. I think that's effing cool. I love Galadriel in this. Radagast is good. Saruman's cool. It's just great stuff, man. Like, straight up. I love the final fight between Thorin and between Thorin and Azog on the ice. That's it. It's so it's simple, right? It's just him with a I don't know, like a scythe in his hand and a weird, like, throwy thing with a rock. But it's effing cool, right? It's not Avengers Endgame or The Rise of Skywalker or something crazy. It's just two people trying to kill each other on the ice. And there's these, little moments where, like, Thorin takes a swing and he, like, slips and, like, lands on his butt on the ice. And it looks like a mistake, and they just kept it. I don't know if it was or not, but it really adds to the sense of, yeah, like, these two dudes they're just fighting on the ice, I mean, shit's getting real, and the thing's breaking. And I think that's kind of cool. Obviously, I love the fact that, Thorin and they both die kind of almost at the same time. I think that's kind of poetic. I love the journey. I love seeing Gollum in an unexpected journey. I mean, the riddle scene is great. The extended cut with the Goiter guy, the Goblin King or whatever, he does his little rock song. Some extended versions are more just kind of there to be funny or there to extend the scene. That when you get to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, that's when you really, really feel the extended runtime, at least for me. But the Hobbit trilogy does have really good scenes. And again, if you do want to rewatch this trilogy, I highly recommend going with the extended versions. They're just they're just better, like straight up, and not just because it's more, but it adds more in a meaningful way. And it ends great, I love that, and I truly effing love how they do a Star Wars. I love it. Because the Hobbit trilogy ends with line for line, shot for, not shot for shot, but, beat for beat of what you hear in The Lord of the Rings 1, Fellowship of the Ring, right? Like, it's crazy. I didn't remember this, but in Lord of the Rings 1, like, they mention Lake Town, and you see the map of Smaug, and you see the Lonely Mountain, and they mention Thorin, and, I mean, it's crazy, because I'm like, oh, like, this is like the prequels in the originals, for Star Wars. It's like kind of working backward in a way, and I think that's kind of cool that they were able to do that, and obviously, they kind of had to for it to make sense, but I genuinely forgot they did that when I was rewatching Fellowship of the Ring the other night. I was like, oh, shoot, they mentioned Lake Town and whatever, It was kind of cool, and watching the Hobbit trilogy, or I guess, if you really want to do it the right way, watching War of the Rohirrim, watching Hobbit trilogy, watching Lord of the Rings trilogy, it just adds to the world. It just makes for a more cohesive narrative, which is really, really great. So yeah, I mean, look, looking back at the Hobbit trilogy, are there flaws? Yeah, maybe a few. Alfred's a little annoying. I don't mind him, but I could see how some people hate him. He's supposed to be an a-hole. He's supposed to be hated. He's supposed to be kind of a greasy worm, right? Like, that's his character. So, like, if you hate the guy, you're kind of supposed to. I also think, the dwarves are all really great. I love the acting. I love the writing. CGI, for the most part, is pretty good. I love the rivalry between, like I said, all these characters and, good conquering evil and all that. I love the fact that they're setting up Sauron as this massive bad guy. So, when you do watch Lord of the Rings, it maybe you didn't have to see it, but if you do watch Hobbit first, which is the right way to do it, you will get that background context knowledge, and you'll go, oh, okay, I better understand what they're talking about now. I never was confused watching Lord of the Rings first, but it was cool to kind of, do that and see it in that order. So, yeah, I mean, I genuinely think the Hobbit trilogy is one of the most overhated and underrated trilogies of all time. Is it the Star Wars sequels? No, not for me. But it's pretty friggin' close. Like, I genuinely love this trilogy. It is one of my favorite sets of films of all time. It is, easily up there with some of the best trilogies that I've ever seen. And I think that it really does stand the test of time. It holds up really well. Lego The Hobbit's a great game, too, so you want to play that. Sadly, we don't have the third film in that game because TT Games are a bunch of liars, but what are you going to do? I'm excited to see whatever, Middle-earth projects are next. Apparently, we're getting, The Hunt for Gollum, I think, which apparently, Andy Serkis is directing, who, of course, is Gollum, Smeagol. We might be getting Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn and Orlando Bloom as Legolas, and Ian McKellen is Gandalf. I don't know. We'll see, because I'm pretty sure Ian McKellen's filming Avengers or whatever, but it is still kind of cool that they might get them back, which is going to take place during the events of Lord of the Rings 1, where Gollum ultimately gets captured and, what does he go? Shaller! Bargains! Or whatever he does, he kind of gives away the location. But yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun with this trilogy again, looking forward to it. I mean, I also liked War of the Rohirrim. I got to order that on Blu-ray or go to the Exchange or whatever. I need to rewatch that. It is cool, though, because I watched The Two Towers last night, and, Helm's Deep is cool. They mention Helm Hammerhand, which is, like, one of the main guys in that anime film, and, yeah, it's really great. So, yeah, I think it's a really good cinematic universe that Peter Jackson made. It is different to the novels, a little change the lore, but I think the Hobbit trilogy is extremely strong, holds up, and like I said, it's really freaking underrated, man. I genuinely love it. So tell me down below in the comments what you think about the Hobbit trilogy, and hey, if you want me to do more Hobbit, Lord of the Rings voices, I can do, Gollum, Gandalf, Smaug, Legolas, Thorin, a few others. So yeah, if you want me to do more voice acting vids, tell me down below in the comments as well. And yeah, like I said, let's talk all things Hobbit down below. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. And next up, not next up, but next soon will be my Lord of the Rings retrospective. But yeah, man, great trilogy, great time. Peace out.